I hope you fall in love one day, so I can be like you, so you can bleed like the rest of us. Emily was written and directed by Frances O'Connor in her directorial debut. She's been in quite a few films. Check out her IMDb page for the full listing. But as far as big films, she's been in big, meaty roles, slapping roles. That doesn't really work all that well in this context. Non-wrestling fans will be very confused. She's been in AI, Artificial Intelligence, and The Conjuring 2. Yes, the mother from The Conjuring 2 wrote and directed this film based around the life of Emily Brontë, who during her short time on this earth wrote Wuthering Heights, something that is still revered to this very day, something that lives on, carries on her legacy, popular in some circles, condemned in others, but by God, it is really something quite memorable. It's been years since I read it, but it definitely shows the passion that Emily Brontë had for writing and the understanding of, taking life experiences from family to church to love and all that and everybody she interacts with, and putting a lot of her personal stuff into this book. I mean, you kind of can tell that, especially as this movie plays out. And this takes place between 1818 and 1848, because another aspect of Emily Bronte's life is, unfortunately, she passed away around the age of 30. And we're left to wonder what the hell happened. Well, since none of us were around back then, we just have to go with these interpretations because history is written by the victor. Hey, Victor, heard about your dad. Oh, boy, smoke signals. Didn't think you were going to get a reference to that, did you? So we see how Emily's life played out. Emily is played by Emma Mackey, who does a terrific job in this. I've seen her in a couple other things. I look forward to more of her work. Bright young actress, very good in this. And Frances O'Connor sets the tone well as far as a beautiful but bleak landscape given the location and given the fact that there's, talk of classism, gender roles, Emily being headstrong but also perhaps having undiagnosed mental health issues, because women were just seen as crazy or loony back then, not seen as human if they acted up or spoke out of turn. Good thing that has changed over the last... Oh, that stuff still happens. But other people in this movie include William Waitman, who's played by Oliver Jackson Cohen. I would have said that was a name way too snooty to be in a film like this, but actually it fits. Fionn Whitehead, who plays Branwell, Emily's brother. And Charlotte, played by Alexandra Dowling, who plays the more educated sister, a little bit older. And Anne, played by Amelia Gettig. I pretty much probably totally butchered that right there. Amelia was pretty good in this as well. It really does center around Emily, Bramwell, and then Waitman. And Charlotte has some good scenes in this as well. And then you have Patrick, who's the father, Adrian Dunbar, and then Gemma Jones, who plays Aunt Bramwell. And Gemma Jones is really good. I wish they had featured her more, but I understand why they didn't. She's a really terrific actress. So, yes, we see how things could have gone as far as Emily talking to her family, and then we go back a number of years or whatever. So it starts towards the end of her unfortunate, of her, tragic passing, and then, as opposed to the beginning of her tragic passing, and then it goes back to how we see everything going on in this film, and from there we have a good, actually very good period piece that I'm not going to say reinvents the wheel. Other films have focused on a lot of, female empowerment and women wanting to rise up and get away from men, and actually women talking. That's what this kind of reminded me of. I did review Women Talking shortly after it came out. I will say I like this one a little bit more than Women Talking, even though Women Talking had very, very good performances. This one, the only issue I have with this is, before I dive into spoilers, is it has a few pacing issues, and that's expected from a first-time director-writer, even if you act a whole lot, and even if you understand film, sometimes that can happen. No matter how long you've acted, it's a whole different animal when you write and you step behind the camera. There are some pacing issues where I think there were a few montages that could have been cut, even though I understand what they were trying to do. And there were times where a few parts felt stretched out, and then some parts felt rushed. And that's odd considering this movie, from, opening credits to end credits, goes a beefy 130 minutes. Now, enough of the story does work, and I'm certainly going to recommend this movie. It's just what stops it from being absolutely, maybe not perfect, but one of the absolute best films of the year are those pacing issues. Performances, quite good. Oliver does a great job as Waitman. And Mr. Whitehead does a great job as Branwell. But the center of this is Emily, obviously, in a movie titled Emily. And Emma Mackey does a great job. Great job here. There's a lot of really good dialogue pieces, exchanges between her and Charlotte. There's one particular exchange between Emily and Branwell later on, like in the movie. Holy shit, that's dark and harsh. And you get the expected balancing of drama, romance, some good gothic imagery, including one particular scene with a mask, which was really, really good, by the way. The early on scene, I mean, not that the later scene was bad, but there's an early on scene with a mask where you pretend to be somebody that really does shine a light on love, loss, and also how some people feel like they need to wear a mask in society. So good, good storytelling there. Again, not perfect, but definitely one of the better films of this year, and I look forward to seeing what else Frances O'Connor can do. By the way, again, that was in this, and I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking at all. Like, she's going to be fucking watching this. It's just funny. I go, oh, okay, geez, that's where I've seen that. That's where I've seen her, or seen that name before. I did like one particular dialogue exchange. How did you write Wuthering Heights? I took my pen and put it to paper. Like, how the fuck else am I going to do this? There's something. There certainly is something to this movie. And from there, we have a good period piece. I am going to get into spoilers, though. It's not going to take very long to spoil some of this stuff. But do check it out. I was able to rent for just a few bucks on Amazon. I would have gladly paid full price to rent this. But it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. If you enjoy period pieces like this, and enjoy, learning stuff about Emily Brontë, go for it. Is it historically accurate? I don't fucking know. I wasn't there. It wasn't even that. It was Owen. Anyway, so I'm getting into spoilers. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay, yeah, once again, Emma Mackey, great job. Great job. Basically, we start at the beginning where Emily's about to die. They're getting the family. They're trying to get there. Charlotte, Alexandria, is trying to get her to hold on for one more day, as Wilson Phillips once said. And then there is one good line I think that people need to remember. We must not dwell on the past. It's the future we must live for, which is true. And that is pretty accurate. William Waitman shows up during this as a clergyman, and obviously her and him, even though she finds him insufferable, obviously they're going to grow to fall in love and fuck. And look at Emma Mackey. Could you blame him? I couldn't. The Mask of the Dead, or at least the mask scene, I really, really liked because they were playing various roles. One was Marie Antoinette and all this stuff and whatever. And then, because the mother had passed away, Emma had a really, really good scene here where she was just told while wearing a mask. So she had to convey through emotions and inflections in her voice. That was good stuff. And then that was really good. We get some scenes with her and Branwell. I'm not going to lie to you. There was almost an implication that there was a brother-sister romance here, which, gross. I mean, it wasn't just being close to your family. It was, a little too close to your family, especially in Branwell's case. But he had freedom in thought, written on his thing, and then they shout loud noises. And Emily, looks for inspiration on how to write and stuff like that, but she doesn't end up doing all that well going to school before this. She was going to go be a teacher because Charlotte was trying to make something of herself. Father's kind of pissed. Waitman's going to teach her French. She's very headstrong, is what I noted. And then she had buried the mask during this whole time after the particular scene, and then digs it up sometime later. Branwell feels that Waitman and Emily that Waitman isn't right for her. He's going to break her heart. There is one particular part where Branwell and Emily are looking at a guy's house, like peering in a guy's house or whatever, like somebody that's a nearby neighbor, and then they get chased away. Release the hounds is what I kept noting. And then eventually Branwell gets caught. He'll be punished. He's going to go work for the Lintons. That's the family, I believe. And then a little bit sometime later, it's because Mrs. Linton wanted somebody, wanted a young stud, I guess. Because there's a particular scene where they're kissing in a theater. Ha! The fuck? Who would sleep with a married woman? Moving on. I did note at one point, because of all this stuff happening, I go, wait, wasn't this supposed to be about her writing stuff? Because they just seem to go off the beaten path. And then there's a romance with Wakeman that ends up eventually going tits up because which literally and figuratively in some scenes, and because he's a clergyman, he can't do this. So he pretty much breaks her heart. Dick. I mean, Emily does have some issues, but come on, man. Charlotte comes home, and Emily has more confidence. She's kind of like more staying up to herself because Charlotte knocked her writing earlier. And she visits Bramwell on occasion. She does basically, that I hope you fall in love one day so I can be like you, so you can bleed like the rest of us. She ripped his writing apart just before that in this pretty vile scene. And my God, some people, they need to hear if their work isn't good. And that's fine, but boy, when it's family, when it's somebody you trust and love, whew. Good scene though. Good scene. And then a little bit later on, Emily's getting into more writing using her experiences. She digs up the mask, does all this stuff. Wakeman hands Bramwell a piece to hand to Emily that is basically something that he wrote to her. And then, well, she goes off with Charlotte to Brussels to do some studies. But then a letter is written that Wakeman died of cholera. And then they go back home, and Bramwell's sick, so he dies. Sure, lay next to your brother's corpse. It's infected. It's fine. And then it's time to write. She manages to write Wuthering Heights, and then she dies. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. All that stuff, like from the breakup to everybody dying, is within the last 40 minutes. At least, I think the last 40 minutes. It was good. It was good stuff. I look forward to seeing what else Frances O'Connor can do. And great performance by Emma Mackey and others. This is a well cast movie. It gets an A- because of those pacing issues, but still pretty well worth it. So check it out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.